Good afternoon. We are at optional review for Monday, April 20th, 2026 at 3 o'clock. And Commissioners, we're going to start with the candidates for the Board of Equalization so they don't have to wait. And we will go in the order that you have in your packet. So let me first say that this is not a voting meeting, so there's no votes taken here. This is just for discussion items only. And Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Rawls.
Present.
Commissioner Durrett. Here. Commissioner Oster.
Here.
Commissioner Jackson. Here. Commissioner Russell.
Here.
Commissioner Hill. Here. Commissioner Lee.
Here.
Commissioner Thompson.
Here.
Commissioner Fox. Commissioner Jay. Commissioner Frazier.
Present.
Thank you very much. So the first applicant is John Anderton. Hi, if you'll come down to the podium, sir. And you probably, on that little black box, you've got to push the little button that looks like a person. Thank you, Commissioner Jay. I didn't even think about the button. The battery's not in.
Oh. Oh, yeah. Yes.
Perfect, thank you. Mr. Anderson, if you would like to tell us a little bit about yourself and why you would like to sit on the board, that would be great.
Well, I was born and raised in Knoxville. I've been on the board through 2 administrations, 5 years. Like I say, I've lived most of my life in Knoxville, and except for when I was in the Air Force. And I was just trying to do a little community work as far as helping the public, as far as that, giving up 30 your summer, you know.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for volunteering to do this. Do any of the commissioners have any questions? Nope. All right. So we will make the vote on Monday in same place in here at 5 o'clock next Monday. And if you can make it back, that would be great.
Okay.
All right. Thank you again
Thank
for
you all.
applying. We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Next is William Gentry. Hello, Mr. Gentry.
Hello. I'm Bill Gentry, born and raised here in Knoxville. I have been in the bus business all of my life, had Gentry bus lines, and we sold out in 19, and I'm just bored to tears because I don't have any buses to break down or nothing to worry about, so I thought, what can I do? And this came up, and I've really enjoyed the last 2 years serving on the board. It's very educational, and it's kind of come full circle because when I was in school and going to ETSU, I was actually majoring in real estate. And I came back to Knoxville. I worked with R.M. Moore & Associates for a few years until I figured out that you can't buy groceries during that period of time unless you're really good, and I wasn't really good, but Dad needed me to help him with the buses, so I transferred over to the bus business. Now I'm retired, and I'm here to serve at your pleasure.
Well, we certainly appreciate that because this board is very important to the county, and we appreciate that. Dean, commissioners have any questions? We got a quiet commission today. You guys got lucky.
Well, I figured that one of them got thrown off the bus somewhere. I'd
Somebody might
get
have gotten
blamed for
thrown.
it.
We do have one question from Commissioner Hill.
This is not a question, Mr. Gentry, but just a thank you. I was very familiar with you all when you were doing the school bus business and the number of times that you gave of yourself and gave of service when other resources weren't available did not go unnoticed. So I appreciate you giving then and appreciate your willingness to give now.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, you heard the same thing, Monday at 5 o'clock?
Yes.
And we will make the votes.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank
Have a
you.
great day. Thank you for coming down, too. Next is Gail Hawkins. Hello.
Hello. I am Gail Hawkins. I am a mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother, and I have served on the board for about 5 years, I think. I am retired. I worked for 53 years for St. Mary's Credit Union and then later Health Systems Credit Union after the name change. And that's about it.
And that's it.
Any questions for me?
Do we have any questions? All right. Well,
Okay.
seeing none, thank you again. I want to
Okay.
thank everybody for stepping up because, like I say, it's a very important position. So,
pleasure.
yep.
Thank you.
Next Monday at 5. Thank you. And the last is Mr. Thompson, James Thompson. Hello.
I'm Jim Thompson. Hi, how are you?
Very well.
Good, good. I live in Knox County and have been in Knox County for many, many years. I'm retired, engineering consulting business. I had the privilege of serving in the previous term and on the Board of Equalization. It was quite an experience. I enjoyed it. It is, I can understand why it's an important component of the process. And was asked to come back for a second term, and I agreed to do it. And so,
Yeah,
that's
we
it.
appreciate that. We appreciate that. Seeing no questions, I guess we will see you next Monday at 5.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you to everybody who came down. I know it's not always fun to come down at this time of day downtown, but we appreciate you being willing to serve this really important role. And so thank you guys again. We appreciate it. All right, commissioners, do we have any discussion forward on the agenda for next Monday? Commissioner Fox?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to alert everybody that I did upload some language for the nonprofit ordinance that is almost identical to what I had before with regard to people living or residing in violation of the immigration laws and nonprofits giving some type of acknowledgement that they're not providing services to people living in violation or residing in violation of those laws here in Knox County. So that I'm going to offer that as an amendment to what Commissioner Russell has already provided next Monday. And I just want to alert everybody to that.
Yeah, were you able to get this over to legal before the cutoff?
No, but it's basically the same thing that I had before, except the only difference is I added, instead of a sworn statement, I added a sworn statement to the person's knowledge, information, or belief. So that's the only distinction with what I have.
It's still a change. It didn't make it in by the cutoff, and you have made a change to it.
Madam Chair, is this a change to the ordinance, or is this going to just a suggestion for debate next week for an amendment?
That's what it is, yeah. It's a suggestion for debate of an amendment for next week, yes.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. And then, Commissioner Fox, can you explain what March Madness is in your other business?
Yes, March Madness.
Ma'am, before we move on from the previous
Oh, I'm sorry.
item of discussion, if, to make this, if there's an issue with the timeline that things were turned in, would it be possible to do these two items separately, like do the two original ordinances as they're currently written, and then do an amendment to the ordinance as a separate ordinance? I'm just trying to figure out how that might work best.
Well, yeah, I understand that, and to me, that makes sense.
I guess what I'm asking or trying to prevent is these two particular items that have been worked on for a good while from being postponed again. So rather than postpone them again, would it legally be better to separate them and have the first ordinance and then have a second ordinance that,
So
I'm just,
I'm just kind of walking through how this would happen. So next week, the way you have it written, you would make a motion, assuming somebody else seconds it, it then opens it up for discussion. You present your discussion, and then somebody can then make an amendment, and then that amendment can be voted up or down.
okay. And so we don't need to set, okay. I'm just making sure, because again, I just don't want this to be postponed yet again. Thank you.
Use your mic. Use your words.
Thank you. That was going to be my next question. If it didn't make it in the deadline, I know you don't want to postpone it again, but what if we just put it in May? Just do it in May. That way,
Everybody has time.
that way everything is settled and we have time to read over and just did it in May.
Yep.
Commissioner Fox, would you be willing to do your own separate ordinance with your items then, so that this does not get postponed? Because that was my biggest fear, that this would get postponed if we tried to do that.
Right. But my understanding is that, exactly like Commissioner Jackson put it, that which, I mean, I participated, of course, on some of the body of that as well.
Yeah.
But that particular ordinance can be adopted by this body regardless of whether this body adopts a proposed amendment that I make. And that will not cause any delay. People can either vote up or down on the amendment. And then if people vote down on the amendment, then it just goes back to what you submitted. So
Okay.
I don't see any reason why that would create a delay.
Okay, I'm just trying to prevent this from getting postponed again.
I would ask Mr. Moyers, would that be the protocol? Okay, that's what I thought, yeah.
Okay.
So that would, there's no reason to delay just because of this proposed amendment that I'm going to make. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And just to clarify, based upon what I wrote in the forum earlier today, on a dollar amount, that threshold, I am not going to make an amendment to it. It is just a suggestion for our discussion, and then I would defer to you on whether you want to accept that or not.
Thank you.
Commissioner
Thank you.
Durant?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Jackson, you can go ahead and do that now, and then we could potentially get it in the language if Commissioner Russell feels like changing it. Director Moyers, if, let's say, the amendment is voted up, being that it's a considerable change, would the ordinance then have to go back and be resubmitted? Or, okay. And then I had a third, and I have since forgotten it.
Commissioner Jay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know it's been some time since we've talked about it, and I did attend one of the workshops. Commissioner Russell, for items number 34 and 35, can you help me, and I may be going back to the beginning, but given that it's now actually before us, can you help clearly define what problem you're trying to solve that currently exists?
Yes,
No, I think it's 34 and 35.
Madam Chair, is it okay
Yes.
for me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, sir. First of all, the existing language is out of date. In various areas, it refers to the county executive rather than the county mayor. It actually does not outline our the current way that we actually do things. So this has, and I have worked quite a bit with Director Holden, and if she is here, I would love for her to come up and maybe give us some additional information. So I started out with wanting to correct some of the problems. Plus, I worked with her a great deal to make sure that we outlined exactly the flow of how things are actually being processed currently. And on numerous occasions, I have worked with her, and I originally, just to go ahead and talk to Commissioner Jackson's concern about the audit, one of the primary things that I was hoping to accomplish with this was to get more transparency with how we're doing this, more accountability from the not-for-profits. And that was one of the main things that I had wanted to put in there, was actually that they had to have a audit before we would even consider them. After working a great deal with Director Holden, we came to what I hope is a good compromise, that only if they are awarded a grant, then going forward, they would need to be audited to make sure that they're complying with everything. And plus, an audit does give you additional security that there's a division of duties that helps people from being able to be inappropriate with spending. So, and I have actually talked with her a great deal also about trying to work with the Tennessee Society of CPAs to see if we could somehow promote having these audits done pro bono, trying to get maybe at reduced fees, doing them in CPA's off season when they're trying to keep their staff busy anyway, because I'm not wanting to put an extra burden. But I do feel like we do need that extra security, just simply because we don't want to see Knox County's name in the paper saying, oh, you know, they gave all this money to somebody and they didn't follow up. And so this actually follows up, but trying to do so in the most harmless way to the nonprofit. Director Holden, could you give us some maybe additional insight from your side?
Jenny Holden, Grants and Community Development. I will just echo what Commissioner Russell said about us working together. We have spent many, many hours working on this ordinance. And while I do know that several of you have concerns about that audit, and Commissioner Russell knows that I also have that same concern, in my view, if we could mirror state law, I think that would be great. But Commissioner Russell's idea to work with some of the CPAs to try and get that done at a reduced or free rate, I also think is great. But she has worked with us on everything that we have asked for. And this really does just codify what we are currently doing now. She walks step by step through what we request now as part of our application process. And she has put together what I believe is an excellent ordinance.
Thank you. Commissioner Jay, do you have anything else?
Yeah, I just wanted to respond. I think it's perfectly acceptable to update a language. I think it's perfectly acceptable to, outline how we actually do things now. And I think it's, more transparency and accountability. It's always good. I do have a real issue with the audit perspective as somebody who's run several nonprofits and worked on many more. This should mirror state law. And you cannot, I don't think you can pass a law that requires somebody to do something that's, more invasive than it is per our state law guidelines, and then, ask for somebody to give free work to, it gets very, very muddy after the fact. And I think these are small grants, and I agree with Commissioner Jackson, it would be almost, nobody would ever spend $5,000 to do an audit to get a $10,000 grant. And so I think we have a state law for a reason, and the state law has shown what thresholds are, and you as a CPA know an audit will only tell you, are the books in order, not how they spent. Like, it won't tell you whether they misused funds or did they spend funds with ill intent. It will just say, did they follow accounting practices? So I get where you're trying to go, but I don't think you're going to get there with an audit, and I think it shouldn't be more permissive, like more restrictive than what our state partners say. But, so I kind of agree with you most of the way, but I'm really struggling with that last piece because I know I've started organizations and we, every dollar we had went into the mission and survival. And if you had required this of us, we would have walked away. And I think that it's just not what you're trying to get to. It's not going to be achieved, but perhaps continued discussion can happen between now and next week.
Thank you. Commissioner Rawls.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Russell, I've just got a couple of questions about Section 1 and the breakdown of items. If you can explain what is the purpose for, I know we've talked about the audit, but the audit is a big sticking point for me. And in Section 8 in the breakdown of things, you request an audit prior to application. So can you explain that or talk to it at least, the idea behind that?
I actually do not have my computer with me, but I don't
Here.
recall that.
I'll read it out. Section 1. Yeah, so here we go. Financial statements and general accepted accounting forms of organizations, including a copy of the organization's the prior year's external audit, showing a clean and unqualified opinion if required by state. So we're requiring them to had been through an audit prior to them applying for the defined services in which we don't have an audit. Or we're requiring an audit again.
That specifically says if required by state. So we're not requiring them to do anything unless it was required by the state. If the state required them to have an audit, it needs to be a clean audit. So we're not asking them to have a prior audit if it's not required by the state. But if it is required by the state, it needs to be a clean, unqualified audit.
Okay,
opinion.
Great. Thank you. And then also number 4.
Oh, sorry.
Number 4 talks about salary. I'll read it out loud. Salaried information
I
for.
I see that.
Okay.
That is actually, should be in their 990 anyway. That information is public information to anybody that wants it anyway, so it just makes sense to.
Not if they do a postcard 990. Postcards 990s don't detail specific information about the board. They don't. If an organization raises less than $50,000, then they have to submit what's called a postcard 990, correct? A postcard 990 is a non-detailed report of like dollar amount. There is no board information. There is no dollar amount. There is just a submission to the government saying we are a nonprofit that raises less than $50,000.
Director Holden.
Commissioner, that is required by charter, the top 2 salaries, that's already required. So
Okay.
we require that currently because we have to.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Hill.
Thank you. So from what I'm hearing, Commissioner Russell and Director Holden say, this is what correct me if this statement is correct. Right now, in Commissioner Russell's effort to update this application, everything here is in fact what we are now requiring anyway.
Mostly. There are a few changes. Currently, we require someone to submit a copy of their 990 or an audit. This language changes it to say if they are required to have had an audit by the state, that $1 million in revenue, then they have to provide that. In the past, we've given them the option to do the 990 or the audit. Typically, we go out and look at the audit anyway. We go out and monitor these contracts, and we always ask to see folks audit when we go out. But that is a change, not a change that is significant enough to concern us. I think it's not a bad thing at all for us to have a copy of an audit if they were required to have one. But other than that, we are asking for their overall budget, which is different. In the past, we have asked them just for the budget that they were planning to spend, just how they were going to spend their Knox County funds. But the way that Commissioner Russell has this phrased, it's a much broader budget than it's what you would see in their tax return, that kind of thing, as opposed to a really itemized, which is where we started with a very itemized, all of their revenue sources and all of that. And we've compromised on that and made a much broader type of budget that they would have to submit. But other than those things, yes, this is what we are doing currently.
And please refresh my memory, what is required by state law in this audit section?
Revenue of over $1 million.
So it's not about the amount of money that they raise? It has nothing to do with money? It's,
If they have revenue of more than $1 million.
oh, $1 million.
Yes,
$1 million.
then they have to
All
have
right.
an audit.
All right, thank you. So you and your department, who are the ones who have to wade through all this then, are comfortable with this language as it stands?
Yes, Commissioner Russell, outside of that requiring the audit on
Okay,
the back
except for
end,
the audit.
outside of the state law, yes, we feel good about this. And once again, Commissioner Russell worked really hard to get this where it is
Gotcha.
today. So
Gotcha. So I do I do hear what Commissioner Jackson's saying and Commissioner Rawls too on this audit, especially for these smaller organizations, even if they don't have one coming in, then we're going to require them to do one. Is that what you're asking?
After they get the money.
After they get our money, okay.
Yeah.
So we'll give them $10,000 and then require them to do a $5,000 audit. Is that what we're saying?
that is, as it's written right now, yes.
Potentially.
That is kind of a problem. Thank you for those comments.
May I read, did everybody have a chance to read my message today? May I? Oh, okay. May I read it? You know, Commissioner Russell, I can tell you've spent a lot of time on these amendments. It looks much better. Thank you for all the time you have spent editing your original submission. I have some continued reservations on the requirement for an external audit. Most of the defined services receive grants of $10,000 or so. An audit will cost generally at least this amount. Why should a small nonprofit accept the funds if it costs as much in compliance costs as the grant itself? May I suggest having a dollar threshold of the grant that triggers requiring an audit, perhaps $50,000 or $100,000? Even if this doesn't pertain to the nonprofits today, it would provide guardrails for the years to come if grants contracts increase over time. I could potentially agree with this amendment. However, I feel the audit requirement for all funding, regardless of the dollar amount, would be overreach for smaller nonprofits. So basically what I am saying here is maybe is there a middle ground between the $1 million figure of revenue and could we say, hey, the middle ground is going to be once you hit a certain threshold of the grant that we're going to say, hey, if we're giving you $100,000, we're going to expect that you have an audit, or $50,000 or whatever that dollar amount is. That's my suggestion of the edit. is to, is there some kind of middle ground here? Because I can't support it as it's written today, just because I know that, $5,000, I would be shocked if we can get $5,000 audits. I think that they're going to be closer to 10,000
Commissioner
for a
Russell?
very simple organization.
Commissioner Russell?
First of all, thank you, Director Holden, for all of your help during all of this. I think you can tell from our conversation here that really the only item, I guess, of any debate is the audit. When I went into this, I originally started out wanting audits before they could even apply. And while Commissioner Jay is 100% correct that a financial audit does not necessarily detect all problems that might occur, it does, one of the things that it does look at is there a segregation of duties? Do you have one person who is authorizing expenditures and another person writing the checks? The more segregation of duties you have, the more likely you are to stay on track. When you have the same person authorizing expense and having access to the checkbook is kind of when you start running into problems. And so one of the things that I had agreed to was, okay, let's don't ask for that in advance, only if they get our money, not as a requirement to get the money, but just to show us that they're doing the appropriate things to safeguard our money, because this is our money, all of Knox County citizens' money. And that's my main goal, is to make sure that if we're giving someone money, that it's spent the way it's supposed to be. I do understand the issue with some of the smaller organizations. I would say, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here, I would say that we get about 4 times as many applications as we're able to give grants. So there are a lot of organizations out there that could do the exact same thing, that we're given maybe a smaller organization the money, but then we would have the ability to know that Knox County citizens' money is safeguarded. So that, that is an alternate way to look at it. If you've got 2 organizations that are vying for the same money, that's providing the same service, and one can give you more more assurance than the other, that actually should be considered in the equation. But I really want there to at least be the beginnings of this oversight and making sure that we are watching out for Knox County citizens' money and making sure it's being spent the way it's supposed to be spent. So if it comes down to getting these ordinances through, I do like actually what Commissioner Jackson said more than probably anyone else. If we are giving someone more than like $25,000 a year, we should be able to give the taxpayers some assurance that we know that money's going exactly where it should go and is being watched. So I would not be adverse to considering that change. If you would like to draft that language up and put it, or would you like me to draft that language up and put it on the forum for consideration in advance? It might make it easier when we make the proposed amendment.
Let you draft it how it's your ordinance. So, yeah.
Okay. Do you think a $25,000, I mean, what a,
My initial
Microphone.
My initial thought was 100,000. I think as low as I'd go is 50, but, I mean, this is something that we can all discuss here, but what you're really wanting to do is put a limit there that, we're not really at right now for most of the organizations, but if we give a material amount, what is material? I think it's higher than 25,000. I think 100,000 is material, but if somebody, worst case scenario on a $10,000 grant, if they stole the money, and had poor internal controls, I would think that that's pretty immaterial to our entire, organization. So, not good, but, materiality-wise, I think 100,000 is material, but I'll just open it up to discussion.
Commissioner Jay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would agree with about a $50,000 threshold, only because I know audits can be $7,500 or $10,000 easily. And you would not want somebody to, get a $25,000 budget and spend a third of their budget trying to comply with some paperwork, And I think Commissioner Russell, you can see there's several of us trying to find a way to work with you because we agree with the general premise of where you're heading and the things you're doing. And I think there's we're getting closer. I think some of the in general pushback is like, since we've had this discussion for 6 months, I cannot remember anybody having cited a single case of anybody that we have awarded money to that has stolen it, has abused it, has misused it. Jenny Holden and her team for years have been doing defined service agreements, I don't know how many years. And it is a very rigorous process on the front end, on the back end. And I promise you, there's nobody that wants just nothing to happen with the taxpayer money more than her team, and to be good stewards of it. And so I think we're all willing to work with you, but we shouldn't assume the worst in people. And no one has yet cited a case or a grant or a person or anybody that has stolen, misused, or misappropriated funds from Knox County. And so I understand it's sort of a good political sort of waste, fraud, and abuse, but no one can cite a case. So we're willing to work with you, but please, let's not assume that everybody is coming to Knox County to go through a 6 or 8 or 10-month process to apply for a $10,000 grant to do good in our community and then stealing or misusing that money. I just don't think it happens. So I think we're heading in the right direction, but let's not go down the rabbit hole of creating legislation for the thing that may or may not happen, because it's not happening now.
there was actually in Knox County grant money that was stolen from the rental, and it was in the paper. I hate to bring that back up, but there was actually money that was taken by fraud, and there were employees that were actually had to be terminated. And in the city of Knoxville, there's been some incidents that have been in the paper. Memphis is riddled with constant being in the paper with some of their stuff. So while it may not be something that occurs every day, and I understand you're not wanting to look for the worst. Having worked as a CPA in audit, I have seen the worst. And so I guess it's just the different perspectives, the different backgrounds. I've seen what people can do.
And I totally understand where you're coming from. I get it. I think when we create legislation, we should be making a better mousetrap. And we should be making a government that is smarter and better and is more efficient and effective. We shouldn't always be making legislation and due to reactionary things. And so if there was a case, okay, but we can cite 15 departments in 15 different governments or any company or any church anywhere in the world. People do bad things, and our goal is to prevent that as much as we can. And then when it happens, to be diligent about holding those people accountable. But I think we're saying the same thing. So.
Thank you very much for working with me on this, and I will get that written up for the 50,000. And thank you.
Commissioner Dripp.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to clarify, on the one instance in Knox County, wasn't that county employees and not the actual nonprofit?
Director Holden.
I can speak to that if that's okay. Yes, it was actually one of my employees, and we actually discovered it within our own department and reported it to the comptroller, and she's been prosecuted fully, paid all restitution, but it was an actual Knox County employee, I am sad to say. But it has been taken care of, and we did uncover it ourselves.
Right, so that was a Knox County employee, and so we can't even ensure, even with this ordinance, that that wouldn't happen again. This is for the nonprofit, and it was not the nonprofit's action that caused that fraud. It was a county employee, and so then to kind of Commissioner Jay's point, there still hasn't been an issue of fraud within a nonprofit. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clarified. I agree. I'd like this discussion of adding a threshold, a grant dollar amount that the organization received. I still think maybe it should be $100,000, just because of the cost of an external audit. But I like that. I like this discussion, and I like your willingness to work and what you've done with Director Holden, and so I do appreciate that.
I'll echo all of that. So, all right, Commissioner Fox, my question to you before this discussion, March Madness.
Yes, Madam Chair. Well, I was not talking about basketball. I was talking about March Muslim Madness, and I want to focus on the number of terrorist attacks that have taken place in the United States. And I was going to focus on March. And that's what it's about. And I want to inform this body because I believe that Islam is not compatible with Western civilization. I agree with, there's a representative in Texas who's running for Attorney General of Texas. He's a congressman right now. He's running for Attorney General. His name's Chip Roy. And he has a provision to preserve America from Sharia law. And, I don't want to get too deep into what I plan on talking about, but there's a discernible pattern to Islam as it makes inroads into societies. It starts out, when it's an extreme minority, it starts out preaching doctrines of love and kindness and charity and things of that nature. And then as it grows in population, it changes the tenor of its profession in the public square. And, the problem, America is what I call a neutral, secular public square right now. And that's been the state of the American polity for about, 80 years, I'd say. Maybe, probably 80 years, 60 to 80 years. And the beginnings of that began even before then. It first began in 1879 with the case of United States versus Reynolds, which was a First Amendment case. And the consequences of that case, I would call the unintended consequences that led to the secularization of the American public square. But there's a bumper sticker that most people have probably seen. It's Coexist, and it has a picture of all these different religious symbols on it, and that's what people think of when they talk about the current public square, that all these different faith systems, including no faith system at all, can coexist. The problem with that is that there's one particular faith system that does not seek to coexist, but seeks to dominate. And one of the things I want to do with this presentation is just play for you the words of numerous Muslim clerics themselves who say that America needs to be, the Constitution needs to be subverted to Sharia. And this is not some extreme ideology. This is the ideology of the Islamic population. Now, there might be, your neighbor, your coworker who may be Muslim. I'm not saying every single person to a T buys into that ideology. Just like there are nominal Christians, there are nominal Muslims. There are people who, they go to church on Christmas and Easter and that's it. Or maybe just their parents were a Christian and so they say, I'm a Christian. But I'm talking about the majority of the population. For instance, do you know that the majority of the population, the majority of the American Muslim population, 57%, found that, I think I'm quoting this right, shortly after the attack on Israel on October 7th, 2023, 57% said it was justified. The atrocities that were committed were justified. And I'll bone that up. I don't have that statistic in front of me. So it's not just like 5% or 1%. This is a large component of the Muslim population believes that, and they believe that Sharia should predominate. And I'm just going to play their words. I'm going to play their words. So it's not just Andy Fox saying this; it's them saying it. But the coexist bumper sticker is not a reality; it's a fantasy. And I think that I want to bring to the attention of the public that there is a plan, and the Islamic population, the Muslim population, does not want to just coexist. They want to replace American law with Islamic law. And you have to remember that Islam is a political ideology that has a religious component. Very much like when I gave a presentation several months ago about Israel, ancient Israel, not eighth Israel, ancient Israel, for the purpose of the news media. Somebody misquoted me and said I talked about the eighth nation of Israel. It's the ancient nation of Israel. The ancient nation of Israel was a theocracy, and it had ceremonial laws, it had moral laws, and it had civil laws. And Islam
Madam Chair, Commissioner Fox, I really wish that we could stick to the business, please, of this commission and the role of this commission. Please, please. This is not the platform for that, please.
Well, I think it is, Commissioner Hill. My opinion is different than yours, and I appreciate you not interrupting me. I was talking.
This is not about
I'm talking,
opinions.
Commissioner Hill.
Okay.
It's agenda review.
I got asked to explain what it was, Commissioner Jay. Do you have a problem with that? Do you have a problem with that?
Yeah, but I believe you can summarize it in a few minutes, not, I mean, if you want to have the discussion later, but this is an agenda review meeting. I have some questions about items on our agenda.
Well, I seem to remember that Commissioner Frazier told me, Madam Co-Chair or a Vice Chair told me that this is where the work is done. So I'm trying to explain it. I don't understand. Okay? Now, I'm going to finish what I was saying. Just like ancient Israel was a theocracy, that's what Islam is. It's a political ideology that has a religious component. And it has a ceremonial law, it has a moral law, and it has a civil law. And it is a real threat. And it is the job of this commission to be aware of these things. You need to think about them ahead of time, not react. Just like you're supposed to have, before you have development, you're supposed to have infrastructure in place. That's called planning. Well, it's good to know what's going on in your community. And that's why I'm bringing this, and I think it does make a relevant discussion. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Director Holden, I didn't thank you. No, you don't need to come down. I just didn't thank you for the work that you did. I meant to add you to that, and I apologize. Just remember that. Commissioner Jay.
Hi, thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Russell, is it fair to say that item number 35 follows the same intent on item number 34? In cleaning up language, updating it?
Yes.
Thank you.
They're almost identical. Thank you.
Commissioner Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Number 20, I would prefer to take that off the list, just so that way we can have the comes after the presentation from regarding this subject. On non-consent, yes, I'm sorry. Number 20.
Are you saying you want number 20 to come after the presentation?
On non-consent.
Okay.
My apologies for not
you're
saying
fine.
that clearly.
It does make sense to be able to kind of put them together. So, yeah, I'm good with that. Okay. Anybody else have anything? All right. Well, we will adjourn and Commissioner Durrett.
Oh,
Nope.
never, hold on. I'm good.
Okay. All right, we will adjourn and we will be back in here at 5 o'clock for zoning.